The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here. Welcome to this week's episode of The Stack, where we focus on people, business, and technology. Today, we are going to talk about building a company culture. So, company culture is essential for fostering an environment where employees feel valued, engaged, and motivated. When you take a look at it, a positive company culture not only enhances productivity and employee satisfaction, but also, which is incredible benefit here, it attracts top talent and reduces overall turnover. It's a lot more than about the perks and the benefits that might come with the job. It encompasses the shared values, the beliefs, and behaviors that define how your team interacts and works together. Building and maintaining a healthy company culture requires consistent effort, doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen just one and done. And it has to be intentional practices, ensuring that every team member feels connected to the company's mission, as well as they're empowered to contribute to the overall success. Now, I want to kick things off. We do have a special guest here today. We've got Connor Swalm with Phin Security, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Connor in. How you doing today, Connor?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing awesome. It's a great day here, and we're talking about one of the areas that I really enjoy, and that is company culture. As I think back to when I first started my company, that was one of the things that was at the forefront of my mind about doing things differently, about doing things different than any other organization. And that comes down to what that culture is and what you've built. We were sharing a little bit of a story about one of my jobs back in high school, and I felt like there was no culture. It was non-existent. I felt like, management only was trying to find things that people were doing wrong instead of finding things that people were doing right. And there wasn't this feeling that kind of helped set the stage for how we started our day, how we took care of our guests, our customers. And then I went and did the Disney College program, and it was like a complete turnaround compared to what I was used to, because there was so much more of a focus of what the overall culture was. And you became part of that. Everybody contributed to that. So I love this topic, and I guess I want to jump into a few different areas. One of them is going to be, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about company culture, and how does it impact a business owner?
Sure. The biggest misconception that I see a lot is that whether this is on the owner and also on the employee side, is that the benefits are the culture. So things like PTO and healthcare and retirement, like savings matching, whatever you'd like to call it, and then obviously salary are included in that. A lot of people think that's where culture ends. And the analogy I usually give is one that's given to most people when they get married, is that marriage is not the end of the race, it's the start. And that's kind of how I view those parts of culture as well. That is not the culmination of your culture. That is the start of it. It's like you can't hope to build fulfilling lives and have satisfied partners, like clients of yours. And I just gave a talk on this recently, and the culmination of good culture is like, if you ask yourself, we are the best at what we do, and the answer is us and our partners would agree on that, then you're probably at the top, right? You have this great culture. You have people that don't worry about their health and wellness, and as a result, they also don't need to worry about their own job security. And then as a result, they can get aligned on the mission and the fulfillment. And then as a result, like, you can work all the way up to this. I equated it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For an individual fulfillment, at the very top is business fulfillment. It's like, what does it mean? You're the best at what you do. So that's the first misconception, is the benefits are the culture. And I think it's just completely flip-flopped.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a feeling too, right? Because it's that sense of pride. And when you talk about job security, I mean, we all think about, well, I'm supposed to be here on time. I'm supposed to, make sure I take care of our customers, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of times people don't know what those principles are, those principles and values, and in those things that really are, the defining components of that organization. Um, so when you create a good culture, it does take time and money. How do you prioritize this? Because it's not like it's not like you just throw on a sheet of paper, you jump into Word and say, "All right, everybody, here's our company culture. Go ahead and go for it." I mean, I guess can you elaborate a little bit more on that as far as how you prioritize that and set that up?
Sure. I think it's not to bring like the personal correlation back into it. I think it's a lot about how you prioritize hard things in your own life. So I'll just choose the easiest one off of a shelf. Health. It's like, how does anyone prioritize their health? It's like, well, they make conscious decisions every day to eat different foods, to do different exercises, or to recommit themselves to their own journey for their own physical health or mental health or whatever it is. And so what I'm trying to bring out here is like, this isn't a thing that you do. This is not a committee that you have at your company. This is not a plaque that is on the wall. This is a commitment every day from every member of your company to live out. And so while
Yeah.
you may be thinking to yourself, Connor, that sounds great, but I opened up a KPMG consulting book on how to build culture, and boom, those words came out right away. It's like, obviously,
Yeah.
commit yourself every day. Let's go. So I'll give you some like actual tactical example. What does it mean to commit to, or what should you commit every day to do? One of these things is we went through this exercise recently internally as a leadership team. It's like, what are the values that we would die on a hill for, whatever those are? You
Yeah.
could even put something as what some would consider pedantic as like Star Wars is better than Lord of the Rings. It's like,
Yeah.
we as a company believe Star Wars is infinitely better than Lord of the Rings. And like, I'm bringing up a super pedantic example that obviously you should also not have such a strongly formed opinion on. You're going to fire somebody or not let somebody work with you because of it.
Right.
But
Right.
what I'm trying to get to is there are a set of things that a lot of you, and it should be all of you, and that's kind of what the exercise gets to the heart of is what are the set of things that all of us should hold strongly enough that if somebody were to try to enter this company as a client, as an employee, a consultant, as an advisor or anything, as a friend of the company, that we say, nope, you're not a fit, get out of here. It's like, what are
Right.
those small sets of things? I'll give you one that we arrived at Finn. It was, we are seriously fun. That was it. It's like, and the phrase we decided to use was, a lot of you will look at us for the first time and say, who are these people? It's like, they
Right.
look like they're having a blast. But it's like,
Yeah.
so our statement was, a lot of you will say, hey, I heard about you. Like, what's going on? And then to that we say, uh, oh, what was the phrase? It's like, oh, I've heard about you. You guys are goofy or something like that. You guys are
Yeah.
weird. Like, and then to them we'll say, but you have heard of us. It's like the whole Captain Jack Sparrow. It's like, I'm the best. It's like that whole
Yeah.
phrase. You have heard of us, right? Um,
Right.
that was one of the phrases. And so there are a set of things. And if you're listening to this, or even Dan, you can do this. So what are those things where it's like, and if you arrive at a list of things that it's either very long or is different from the other leaders in your organization, it's like, what have you have just found the set of things that you aren't aligned on. If your list is too long, you can't possibly find enough people that are going to be following along all those things. And if your list is different from the other leaders in your organization, you're all rowing in different directions.
Right. And one of the things that we talked about. Oh boy, I'm just trying to think where I originally got this from, but what's on the walls must be in the halls, right? So
Yeah.
it isn't something that's just like you said, on the wall that you might have made up at one point and then people forget about. You know, we developed our principles and values, and when you take a look at our principles and values, we broke them down back in the mid 2000s. Business advisor, business mentor of mine, he came in and said, all right, we're going to bring your team together. We're going to develop these principles and values. And the ones that we came up with was, number one is raving fans. And I won't go into each of the, the things that break that down, but just if I look at raving fans specifically, we have 3 bullet points to that: exceeding expectations. A satisfied customer is not enough. Providing the customer with a friendly and knowledgeable experience, and building a customer sales force to develop a referral base. But then we have integrity, we've got passion, we've got teamwork, we've got fun, we have ownership, speed, quality, and then community. These are, the things that are part of our principles and values that are, part of our overall culture. And when you talk about, bringing somebody in, anytime that we've interviewed a new prospective employee, we think through, do they fit into that culture? Because we don't want a cultural conflict, right? We want somebody new to come in, and we want there to be this mesh. They have to, they've got to fit from that perspective, right?
Yeah, it also goes beyond the people. So I'll just choose one example you just gave. It was we have raving fans. So if
Hmm.
you're or raving customers, if you're in a meeting, and this is the freedom that having a very well defined and very well aligned culture at every level of your company gives you. If somebody at a meeting, a leader or just anyone, puts a new business process in place or suggests that you do something as an organization, and it doesn't lead to getting more raving fans,
Right.
don't do it. It's like,
Yeah.
just don't, obviously, if it's like, hey, we need to learn how to bill our people properly. It's like, that's different than we're going to start doing this new thing. And and everyone should have the freedom to then question that individual and say, great, tell us how that's going to give us more raving fans. Or
Right.
tell us how that's, if you choose any of it, like, tell us how that's going to foster better community, whether internally or foster a sense of better community internally or with our partners. And if the answer is, well, it's not, it's like, great. Well, that was a great idea. We're not going to do it. And it's like, so you arrive at one of two realities. We need to adjust our internal culture, or we haven't suggested something that actually is what our business should be doing. It's like both of
Right.
those are incredibly valuable pieces of information to understand.
Yeah, I mean, those guiding principles make decisions easier, right?
Yeah.
Because, when you're wanting to introduce something new into the business, often the question is, why are we doing this? And if it doesn't follow with those guiding principles, then it's a lot easier to make that decision. So, how do we recognize that we have a good culture within our organizations, or even even on the flip side, bad culture, right? Because there can be good and bad, and there could be there's because there's culture there no matter what,
Right.
right? It's like, you don't have a company without culture, because it could be good or bad, or it could be needs improvement, right? Opportunity for improvement. So how do we recognize that?
The quickest way to recognize bad culture is employee turnover. Um,
Mm.
so, in the absence of employee turnover, there's a couple of things, but I always make a statement to all of my employees and to anyone I talk to that's in a position of leadership. And it's like, you should all understand immediately, everyone pursues what they believe to be the best opportunity for themselves and their family at all times. It's
Right.
like, now, if you're just looking at hiring your employees or keeping them or giving them job opportunities or increasing their salaries, like any decision you make that impacts people that you are in control of, you should always look at it through that lens. They will always do what they believe is in their own best interest. And that is not a selfish thing. That's just like a human thing. They
Right.
have their interest, you have yours, and vice versa. It's like, I'm always going to do what I think's in my own best interest. It's like everyone will do that. And I think a lot of people, um, when they're making hiring decisions or when they're making like giving people raises or salary adjustments, there's just thought of like, all right, I'm giving you this. What are you giving to me? It's like, that is just a complete wrong lens through which to look at this. It's an opportunity. So obviously, if employees no longer feel like there's an opportunity that is worth pursuing there for them, or other people can give them better opportunities, you've arrived at a cultural issue, because that means, one, your employee didn't voice it to you, and two, you never preempted the conversation. You didn't give them the space to believe that they could voice that to you in a way that you wouldn't be retributive or have retribution as a result.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we've worked real hard to have that environment that allows our team to come to us. And if they're ever at a point where, they feel as if, their satisfaction is no longer there, I always say, come to me, let's have an open discussion about it, because, we want it to be better. Is there something that, broke down, within our culture? Is it something that's broken down within our management style? Is there, if they say, well, hey, we used to care about our clients, but I don't feel like we do, right? Then it's like, well, wait a minute, let's talk about this. I mean, there's a variety of examples that someone could bring back, because we're all in it together, and it's all of us collectively that make this organization a success. Um, so, how do we work with our teams to set that culture for us? I mean, how do we make that happen?
Yeah. So I'd say step one is these people need to know that they have the freedom to communicate with you about that. When I talk with employees who I am not their employer, right? They're usually working at MSPs, because that's pretty much all who I talk to at this point. There is this sense of, I want to say, fear. And it's not a sentiment just in MSP. Like, if you feel like I'm picking on MSPs, it's the group of people that I have the most interactions with.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also recognize it's a symptom of many, many, many organizations, some of which are not MSPs at all. There's a sense of fear. It's like, well, if I'm honest about that, like, I'm going to get fired, or my boss is just going to yell at me, or I'm not going to get that
Right.
promotion that I want. So there's definitely, step one is make sure everyone at your organization, even, the newest employee at your company, knows that they have the freedom to say, hey, if you disagree with the direction we're heading, if you disagree with the values that we have here, if you disagree with, we say this and now we're doing these other things and how that might not align, you have the freedom to bring that up.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a difference between being respectful and disrespectful, and that's something every individual who has had coworkers should recognize, and some do not. So I get that it's a little bit of a delicate balance, but
Yeah.
people need to know that they have the freedom to question those things. Don't view the questioning of your leadership as a negative. View it as a positive. And you brought up one thing. It's like, what is an example of a good culture? And you brought up one of them. It's like, somebody stops and asks in a public and a private forum, hold on, wait a minute. I don't think that's actually vibing with our culture, with our values here. Like, you explained to me how that fits into the values that we all have. It's like,
Yeah.
that is great evidence that somebody
Ownership.
ownership. They know
Yeah.
your values because they sat there and realized and compared them with the values. And then the third was, had the freedom to sit there and question it and say, hey, I don't think that fits into the values. You explained to me how it does. It's like, all
Yeah.
three of those things are evidence of a great company culture.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we've all had it. I mean, you have some staff members that will come to you and say, hey, I'm not questioning you, but, it's like, hey, I don't feel like you're questioning me. I mean, this is our organization. This is not, Dan or Connor. I mean, this is our company. This is everything MSP or Phin Security. And if there's ever any doubt, or if there's ever any question, never hesitate to come up to me and ask me about it, right? Because like you mentioned earlier, I mean, you're not going to fire them for bringing that up, right? Because this is what's part of your culture. And I've said that to team members too, that if you ever feel that you're no longer satisfied in your role, then come to me so that we can talk through it. Maybe we can figure out where there's that breakdown, and we can smooth things out and correct it, and bring that passion back to where you once had. Or if we determine that mutually, maybe it's time that that you move on, and we decide that it's in your best interest, in our best interest, that we part ways. then let's do it together. Let's work together. I'm not going to fire you because you tell me that you're not happy. I want to make sure that you're able to move on in a successful manner and that we can move on in a successful manner. Right.
Yeah.
It's a team process, and versus those infamous dentist appointments. And then the next day, you get a letter of resignation, right? It's like, come on, I know you didn't have a dentist appointment. Let's work together on this, right? I want team members that do leave and move on to come back. I want it to be a great scenario where they come back and we have a discussion about, their success and the direction of where they're going and so on. And if you don't have the right culture, they're not going to bring that to you, right?
Correct.
And yeah, definitely. So tell me a little bit about the kind of how you started that culture within Phin, and how you see that how you've seen that culture grow overall.
Yeah. One of the one of the biggest, one of the primary reasons why Josh, my co-founder, and I wanted to start Finn, and one of the reasons why we have such a big focus on culture is we didn't like how we were treated at previous jobs, both of us, and also, as Tom Lawrence says all the time, hating your job is not enough reason to go start a company. So it's like it's
Right, right,
not that, but it was also like we hated that most employers had created an environment that we viewed as toxic to overall fulfillment. And then most employees had resigned themselves to the fact that that was all that existed. There was nothing better. And as a whatever, we're just a cog in the wheel of capitalism. So I'll just go along with it. Pays okay. Um, and I also forget who said this, is like, they paid me just enough to give up on my dreams, but not enough to feel good about it. It's like, I think that's
yeah,
just horrible sentiment, right? But it's one that's so
right,
important. And so one of the reasons why we decided to focus on all these things is because we just wanted to change it. It's like, I don't care what we end up doing. I don't care who we end up serving. I don't care what industry we exist in. Now, obviously, we now care very deeply about MSPs. We care very deeply about security. But at the beginning, it was like, first and foremost, we care about employees. So we're going to create a place where, like, they're going to be super fulfilled. They're going to pursue all this stuff outside of work. And again, for not seeming like I'm just saying all these things out of a textbook, I'll give you one specific thought that has pervaded Finn and that I believe all business owners should have, is that most of our employees' fulfillment is not going to be from work. Now, I get fulfillment from work. You probably get an incredible amount of fulfillment. It's like, you're one of the owners, one of the founders of everything MSP, right? So it's like, wow, you're watching your company run. You're watching it grow. Like, that is an incredibly
right,
fulfilling thing. But for your employees, it's not the case. They don't have that sense of ownership because they're not an owner. They didn't sacrifice in the way you did, or they didn't have the opportunity to do so. And it's not their thing, it's yours. So I think one of the things that we knew from the very beginning is like, well, if our employees' fulfillment's not going to come from out of work, it's our job to facilitate it. And so, again, going back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs of company cultures, the benefits are the very bottom. So it's like, PTO is the bare minimum you can do to create good culture. But one of the things we wanted to make sure from very early on is like, you have hobbies. What are they? You want to be a different person. What is that? You want to live
yeah,
somewhere else, travel somewhere else, meet different people. It's like, there's an incredible amount of fulfillment that you'll get outside of work that I can do nothing but help facilitate. I can't demand you go do it. Although actually, I kind of do. It's like, you can't get your fulfillment from Finn. You got to get it somewhere else. I'm not going to tell you where. You're
right,
going to get it somewhere else.
yeah,
Please be a whole person in what I believe to be a whole person. And so that was one of the early things early on, is that was our mindset. And we've never come off of that. And I hope we never do, because I get my fulfillment out of this. Like, this is my baby. Well, I'm about to have
yeah,
kids, but this is my baby until they get here.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, but I recognize it's not the case for employees, and I celebrate when they get fulfillment elsewhere.
I had one of my employees, a tech, who at one point said to me, Dan, I don't even view this as work. And he goes, I don't want you to take offense to that, but I don't really view it as work. I'm like, I don't take offense. I love that you said that, right?
Yeah.
You know, that makes me feel incredibly proud of the environment that we have, the culture that we have, that you're able to come in and you don't feel like this is work. Now, I mean, I've always said to my team, I don't expect that when you wake up in the morning, you're going to jump out of bed and do somersaults, say, I'm going to work, right? I mean, because work is work, right? But still, I want people to feel good about walking in and, doing what we do, because our clients see that, and, your clients can tell. And one of the things that a couple of the keywords that you were talking about was I, or we, those are some key indicators. Like when you hear an employee say, well, you guys could do this, or, what if you guys did this? And it's like, what if we did this? Right. The we versus the I, the you, like all those little things are, show how they view themselves within the organization, as far as they're just an employee of the organization, or they truly are a team member of the organization that's part of making this a success. And so little things like that. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up is we've been talking a lot about culture, and a lot of the culture specifically within Phin. But for any of our audience members that don't know what Phin is,
Sure.
can you give a quick overview, a couple minute overview of what does Phin Security do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in a quick elevator pitch, we are a
Yeah.
security awareness training and phishing simulation platform built exclusively for MSPs. That's all we work with. What that's led to is we focused on a few things. One, we buy content from several different providers. So, depending upon what kind of clients you have, their weird, unique compliance needs, or they don't like certain security training, so you had to buy them different ones. Like, we have it all. We buy it all. I promise. And the second thing is, the biggest problem we identified early on was we talked to, in the spirit of talking to the newest employees at a company, we talked to the person who ran the awareness training. It's always the newest employee, by the way. So we talked to that person. Hey, what are you struggling with? And they would start to describe this complex web of, I got to start programs that do this, and then I have to make sure the program's running in this way, and then I got to restart these ones, and then I got to onboard these people, and then I got to run these reports and manually download, put them in my PSA. It's like, if that sounds like a lot, it's because it is. It's like,
Right.
most MSPs we talk to, is I have a full-time employee and they sit right there in that corner and they do the awareness training for all of our clients. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that shouldn't be the case. And so we've really focused on the MSP use case, in that you set your client up, the program runs itself, selects the content for you, selects the phishing for you, does all of the reporting for you, mails it out to key stakeholders and to your PSA, and then you're done. You don't do anything, right? You can go tell your client you did 1 billion hours of work for them to make sure it run. You jump through hula hoop. You can do whatever you'd like. But the reality is, we've saved that tech a ton of time. We save most of our MSPs almost a full-time employee, depending upon their size, obviously, and how many clients they serve.
So it's very automated,
Yeah.
to say the least, right?
Yeah. I don't like using the word automation, because it's like a buzzword, like AI. Everyone says it.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right.
I like to say we really focused on your use case. We've made a ton of things incredibly simple, and it runs itself.
That's excellent. And I mean, security awareness training is so critical. I mean, I use this saying over and over, but I mean, we're putting new employees in front of a computer, whether laptop, desktop, whatever. And, we're just letting them run wild, and
Yeah.
without the proper training, they can take a business, and they could,
Yeah.
you could violate some level of regulatory compliance. I mean, there's so many ramifications. And I think way too easy, we're giving them the keys to the kingdom to some extent, right? By just saying, okay, here's your laptop, go with it. And, we're not taking the proper time to educate them about how best to use that tool, that device that's in front of them, and to ensure the security and safety of our organization and our clients, and so on. That's awesome. Now, if any of our audience want to learn more, of course, they can go to your website. They can go to everythinmsp.com, search for Phin, and find more information, be able to reach out to you there. Do you offer any kind of trials or any kind of demos of for any prospective clients?
Absolutely. So we do have a free trial. You can just go to our website. There's a button in the top right-hand corner, and you can start your free trial there. Also, if you're an MSP, when you are a partner of ours, you get an NFR account for all of
Mm.
your own internal staff members. We never charge for usage in there. And Dan, we've only had one MSP try to put all their clients in there, and we caught them once. So it really is NFR. It really is for your own internal use, but it's free for the MSPs.
Speaking of that, that reminds me, one of our principles and values is do what's right and avoid what's wrong. So that ties right into that one. So
Yeah.
Connor, so much great information. Company culture is one of those driving forces in all of our organizations. It helps us to retain quality talent, helps us to attract quality talent, helps us drive raving fans in our organizations. And there is nothing but good that comes from developing that company culture. But it begins with all of us to make it a priority. So any parting words from you, Connor?
Yeah, if you're listening to this, the employees are the opportunity. That's what I would say. Employees are always the opportunity. You hire creative people to do creative things. So if you are an employee, recognize you are the opportunity. If you're hiring them, recognize they are the opportunity. Treat them like that.
Awesome. All right, Connor, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for being here and listening to us. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.